right, so what is 6,375 divided by 30? So remember, these are sets for division. So the first thing to do is to divide, then we multiply, then we subtract, then we bring down, and we repeat the steps after we bring down until we subtract and get to 0. All right, so let's just divide this right here. So that's going to be 30. That's 30 divided by 63, 700 and, sorry. All right, so let's divide 30, the 6,375 by 30. So 30 into 6 you can, so 30 into 63, that's gonna that it goes 2 times. So it goes into 63 2 times. So that's gonna be 2. After we divide, we multiply, so 2 times 30, that's gonna be 60. After we multiply, we subtract, so that's gonna be minus. We're gonna be left with 3. After we subtract, we bring down. So that's gonna be 37. All right, so after we bring down, we repeat the steps, so we're going back to divide. All right, so how many times 30 can go into 37? One time. After we divide, multiply, so 1 times 30, that's gonna be 30. After you multiply, you subtract, so that's gonna be minus 7 will be what we have left after we subtract 30 from 37. After we subtract, we bring down, so we're gonna bring down the 5. So that's gonna be 35. And after that, we continue. So we continue. After we bring down, we go back and repeat the steps. So we're gonna divide. So how many times 30 can go into 75? That's gonna be 2 times. After we divide, we multiply. So that's gonna be 2 times 30 again. That's gonna be 60. All right. And we're just gonna subtract. So if you subtract 60 from 75, we'll be left with 15. After we subtract, we bring down. But because there's no digit to bring down, we put a point right here, and then we will add our 0. That's so we can bring down, so we can have something to bring down. But my students know, anytime when we bring down a number that comes after decimal point, we have to ensure that a decimal point is where our answer is. So at the top right there, I'll put my decimal point to indicate that I would have bring down a digit that comes after decimal point right there. So I'm just bringing down that 0 right there. So that would be equal 150. All right. So after we bring down, we repeat. So we're going back to divide again. So we're going back to divide. So so how many times 30 can go into 150? That's gonna be 5 times, because after we divide, multiply. So 5 times 30, that's gonna be 150. So we multiply, we subtract, and we be left with nothing. All right, so therefore your answer is gonna be 212.5. So that's gonna be your answer. That's gonna be B. So that's your answer right there. All right, so we're going to question 2. So question 2 says, yeah, so question 2 says a cafe buys 26 boxes of soft drinks. Each box holds 24 cans. How many cans will be there in total? So that means one. So a cafe buys 26 boxes. So one box holds what? 24 cans. So one box holds 24 cans. So if one box holds 24 cans, how many cans will be there in total if we buy 26 boxes? So that we're just gonna multiply. We're gonna multiply 24 times 26. All right, so we're just gonna multiply. So let's quickly do that. So that's gonna be 6 times 4. So 6 times 4 is gonna be equal to 24. So I'm gonna put down my 4 right there. Then I'm gonna carry over my 2 to be added. All right, and then I'm gonna multiply 6 times 2. So I multiply before we add. So 6 times 2 is 12, and 12 plus 2 is 14. All right, so then we are gonna move on to 2. So we're gonna multiply by 2 afterwards. I remember the first thing that we do is to put down a placeholder. So we're gonna put down a 0 right there, and then we're gonna multiply by 2 afterwards. So you're gonna have 2 times 4. So 2 times 4 is gonna be 8. And then we have our 2 times 2. So I'm just curious this so it doesn't confuse anybody else. So 2 times 4 is 8, and 2 times 2, that's gonna be 4. Afterwards, all we have to do is just to add our digits together. So we're gonna quickly add. So 4 plus 0 is gonna be 4. 8 plus 4, that's gonna be 12. Put down your 2, and you carry your 1 to be added. All right, and then 4 plus 1, that's gonna be 5, plus the other one, that's gonna be 6. All right, so your answer is gonna be 624. So B is gonna be your answer right there. All right, so now we're gonna move on to question 3. All right, so a man who wants to save $3,000, 654. So that's $3,654 for a holiday. He will spend the same amount each month. He will save, sorry, so he will save the same amount each month for 18 months. How much does he need to save each month? So how much did he save? So he wants to save this amount for the holiday. So that's his goal. He's trying to get to this goal right here. So he will have he will save the same amount each month for 18 months. So how much does he need to save each month? All right, so how much does he need to save each month in order to get to the 3,654? So all we have to do is just to divide this amount by 18 to see how much he will save for each month. Means that how much will he save every month coming. So that's gonna be 3,060, sorry, 3,654 divided by 18. All right, so we're gonna divide by 18. So that's what we're gonna do right now. So the first thing, remember the steps when we're dividing. So that 18 right there, we're just gonna divide it by 26. So sorry, 36. So 36 divided by 18, that's gonna be equal to 2. All right, so 2 times 18, that's gonna be equal to 36. After we multiply, we subtract. So we have 0 remaining. After we subtract, we bring down. So we're gonna bring down that 5 right there. We're gonna bring down that 5. All right, after we bring down, remember the steps. So after we bring down, we repeat the steps. So we're gonna go back to divide. So how many times 18 can go into 5? That's 0 times. After we divide, we multiply. So 0 times 18, that's going to be 0. After you multiply, you subtract. So you're going to have 5 minus 0. That's going to be 5. After we subtract, we bring down. So we're going to bring down this 4 right here to have 54. And then after we bring down, after we bring down, we're just going to divide again. So repeat the steps. So we're going to end up dividing again. So that 54, if we divide by 18, that's going to be equal to 3. So how many times 18 can go into 54? 3 times. 3 times 18, that's going to be equal to 54. After you multiply, you subtract. And when we subtract, we'll have nothing remaining. So our answer is going to be equal to C. So that's going to be our answer. If we divide, that's 3,654 by 18. So that's going to be our answer right there. Okay, now that we have done that, we're just going to quickly just erase this so we can have the space. All right, so we're going to go to question 4. And I'm going to bring this down so we can see it clearly for question 4. So for question, this is for question 4. All right, so what is 5 over 6 minus 3 over 4? So the lowest common denominator is the first number that is common between the two denominators. So in this case right here, it'll be 6 and 4 when we multiply them by other numbers. So what's the first number that's common between 6 and 4 when we multiply 6 and 4 by other numbers? So let's write down our fractions right here. So we're gonna have our fraction looking like this. So the first fraction is gonna be 5. So it's gonna be 5 over 6 minus 3 over 4. So from the two denominators, 6 and 4, what's going to be the lowest common denominator? All right, so the first number that's going to be common between 4 and 6 after multiplying is going to be 12. Because if I multiply 4 by 3, I'm going to get 12. And if I multiply 6 by 2, I'm going to get 12. So that's my lowest common denominator. All right, so that means that for this new denominator now, sorry, this new numerator now, anything that I multiply at the bottom, I have to multiply by the top. So if I multiply the 6 by 2, I'm going to multiply the 5 by 2 as well. So 2 times 5, that's going to be 10 minus. So if I multiply the 4 by 3, I'm going to have to multiply the 3 by 3 as well. 3 times 3 is going to be equal to 9. So afterwards, no, I only add. So I only add or subtract numerators alone. So I'm going to be just focusing on what is at the top right here. So I only add or subtract my numerators. I do not do anything to my denominator. So I'm going to end up having my answer as denominator 12 over. So I'm going to subtract now. So it's 9 from 10. I'm going to be left with 1. So my answer is going to be equal to, 1 over 12. So that's A right there. So moving on to question 5. So a gardener sowed 50 flower seeds. 40 of the seeds grew into plants. What percentage of the seeds grew? So 40. So you want to write your fractions with what changes or what the change or what you're looking for over the total. So that's gonna be 40 out of 50 because 40 of the plants grew out of the entire 50 flower seeds, right? So only 40 seeds grew. So if you want to convert this fraction into a percentage, if you want to convert fraction into a percentage, then we have to multiply the fraction by 100. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. We're just gonna multiply this fraction by 100 right here. So what I normally tell my students, if we're multiplying a fraction by a whole number, change the whole number by putting it over 1. So I'm gonna have 100 over 1. And how we multiply numerator times numerator and denominator times denominator. So this now is gonna be equal to, that's gonna be equal to 4,000 all over 50 times 1, that's gonna be 50. First thing that we're going to do is just to eliminate our common 0. So eliminate 1 from the bottom and 1 from the top. So now we're left with just 40 divided by 400 divided by 5, sorry. So 400 divided by 5, let me just write it right here. So that's gonna be 400 divided by 5. So 5 divided by 40, that's gonna be 8. So 5 divided by 40 is gonna be 8. So let's write it in another color. So if I divide, so 5 divided by 40, that's gonna be 8. So we'll be left with just 8 and a 0. So that means that my percentage is gonna be 80. And for those who weren't following what I did right there, all I did was just to divide the 5 by 400. So if you have 5 and you divide by 400, you can do short division instead of long division because you only have a 0 afterwards. So how many times 5 can go into 40? That's 8 times. And you just have a 0 remaining. All right, so that's how we got our 80% there. So that's C for your answer. Question 9. In a survey, 6 out of 10 customers say they prefer milk chocolate to dark chocolate. What percentage of customers say they prefer milk chocolate? All right, so it says that 6 out of 10 customers say they prefer the milk chocolate. So we have to write that fraction down, 6 out of 10. And we want to change the fraction into percentage. So just as above, to convert a fraction into a percentage, multiply the fraction by 100. So we'll be doing the same thing right there. So we're going to multiply this fraction right here by 100. All right. And we say that anytime we multiply a fraction by a whole number, we put the number over 1. So we end up having 2 fractions. And if we have 2 fractions, we multiply numerator times numerator and denominator times denominator. So that's going to be 6 times 100. So 6 times 100 is going to be equal to 600. So let's write it right there. So that's 600 over 10 times 1. That's going to be 10. All right. And we just eliminate both the zeros from the bottom and the top. So that's going to be cancel, cancel. All right. So after cancel the zeros from bottom and top, what we have remaining is just 60. So that's going to be 60%. All right. So our answer is going to be D. All right. Going down to question 7. So what is 5% of 60? Now I tell my students, anytime when you see the word of in maths, it means that we're going to multiply. So it means that we're going to multiply. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the multiplication sign right here. So we're going to multiply 5% times 60. So let's write that out here. So I'm going to write 60. And we're going to multiply that by 5% is 5 over 100. All right. So just as before, I tell my students, Anytime when we're multiplying a whole number by a fraction, we put the whole number over 1 and we multiply the two fractions. So that's going to be numerator times numerator and denominator times denominator. All right, so that should be equal to, so we're going to have 60 times 5. So 5 times 6 is going to be 30. And we just add that other 0. So that's going to be 300 divided by, so 1 times 100 is going to be just 100. And we eliminate our zeros from both the bottom and top. So take 1 0 at the bottom and top. And we take another 0 from the bottom and the top. So that means we'll just have our answer being 3. So what is 5% of 60? That's going to be A, 3. All right, moving on to question 8. What is 20% of 80? So same thing. Realize we see the word of right there. So that means that we're going to multiply. So we're going to multiply 20% by the 80. So let's write that down right there. So that's going to look like this. So it's going to be the 80 multiplied by the 20. And it doesn't matter if you write the 20% first and the 80 afterwards. It doesn't matter. All right. It will give you the same answer. All right. All right, so if we have our whole number, we're just gonna put it over 1. So I say it already, once you're multiplying a fraction by a whole number, put the whole number over 1 so that we have two fractions. And then we multiply the two fractions, numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. So that's gonna be equal to, so that's 20 times 80. So 20 times 80, that's gonna be 2 times 80 is 16. And we add our two zeros. So that's gonna be 1,600 all over. 1 times 100, that's gonna be 100. All right. So now all we have to do is just to eliminate the zeros. So take 1 0 from the bottom and 1 0 from the top. Take another 0 from the bottom and another 0 from the top. So now you'll be left with just 16 as your answer. All right, so that's gonna be a 16. And notice, even though there's a 1 under the 16, 16 over 1 is just 16. Just as 80 is the same thing as 80 over 1. It's not gonna change it into anything different. Once you have a whole number over 1, it's just a number itself. So that means if you have 100 over 1, it's still just 100. Moving to question 9. So a jacket costs $120. The shop offers a 25% discount. What is the discount amount? All right, so to find discount amount is that you're gonna find the amount that you will have to subtract from the original cost of the jacket. So in order to find that, we have to find 25% off the 120. So that means that we have to multiply. All right, so discounts mean that you have to pay less for an item. So this code means that we pay less for an item. All right, so we definitely have to subtract, but we have to find what is 25% off 120. All right, so we're gonna just write that out so that we know that we're multiplying. So that's gonna be 120 multiplied by 25% is gonna be 25 over 100. All right, so the same thing applies. If we multiply a whole number by a fraction, put the whole number over 1, and you multiply your two fractions. So that's going to be numerator times numerator. And that's going to be denominator times denominator. So we should get our answer as, that's gonna be 25 times 120. So we can multiply right there. That's gonna be 120 times 25. That's 3,000. So that's gonna be 3,000. And we put that all over 1 times 100. That's gonna be 100 right there. Afterwards, the only thing that we have to do is just to cancel our zeros. So we're gonna cancel our zeros from both the bottom and top. So that's gonna be 1 from the bottom, 1 from the top, and another from the bottom, and another from the top. After we would have eliminated the zeros, what we have remaining is just going to be equal to 30. So 30 is what we have remaining. So 25% of 120 is going to be 30. All right, so therefore, your discount amount is going to be $30. $30. Because that is 25% of 120. So that's C. Moving down, we're going to question 10. A phone costs $800. What is It is sold at a 15% discount. What is the sale price? All right, so this is not asking for the discount amount. It's actually asking for what is gonna be the price after the discount. So after you subtract the discount. So the first thing that we'll have to find 15% of the 800. So once you say 15% of the 800, I know that I have to multiply. So that's gonna be 800 times 15% is gonna be 15 over 100. So 15 over 100 is 15%, and we're gonna do the same thing as before. So if we're multiplying a whole number by a fraction, we change the whole number into a fraction by having it over 1, and then we multiply our two fractions. So that's gonna be 800 times 15, and that's gonna be 1 over 100. So after multiplying, we're gonna have the 15 times 800. So that's 15 times 8. So 15 times 8, you can do that to make it easier. So 15 times 800 is gonna be equal to 12,000. So that's gonna be 12,000. Let's try it with a different color. So that's gonna be 12,000 over 1 times 100 is going to be 100. So all we have to do afterwards is just to cancel our zeros. That's gonna be 1 0 from the bottom, 1 0 from the top, 1 0 from the bottom, 1 0 from the top. So what we have left is just 120. So we have that remaining. So that's 120. All right, so this is gonna be our discount amount. So to get the final price now, all we have to do is to subtract. So we're gonna subtract our 800. So we're gonna subtract 120 from 800. To get our final cost. So this is the discount, $120. So we're gonna subtract it from the 800 to get our final cost. So that's gonna be 0, because 0 minus 0 is 0. 0 minus 2 we can't, so we're gonna take 1 from 8, carry the 1 right here, that's gonna be 10. And if we take 1 from 8, we're left with 7. So that's gonna be 2 minus 10, that's gonna be 8. And we have 7 remaining, so 1 from 7, that's gonna be 6. So now we have our final cost after the discount. That's gonna be $680. So that's gonna be our final selling price. All right, so that's gonna be it. Now we're gonna go over to question 11. So question 11 says that a pair of shoes cost $95. the shop offers a 10% discount. What is the discount? So let me just quickly erase this right here, and we're gonna just scroll down. So what is gonna be the what is the discount? So it did not ask us for a final selling price, it just asked us for the discount. And the discount is just 10% off the 95. So what we're gonna do is just to multiply. All right, so that 95 right there, I'm gonna multiply it by 10%. And 10% is just 10 over 100. All right, so as I said before, if we're multiplying a whole number by a fraction, we just put that whole number over 1, and we must multiply the two fractions. So that's gonna be numerator times numerator, and that's numerator times numerator, and denominator times denominator. All right, so that's gonna be equal to, so 95 times 10, that's gonna be 950. So just add the 0, and then 1 times 100, that's gonna be 100. So first thing first, we eliminate the 0. After eliminating your 0, we're left with just 95 divided by 10. So if we divide 95 by 10, it's the same thing as just moving your decimal point. So that means for our answer right here, we move our decimal point based on the number of zeros. So because there's just 1 0, there's just 1 0. I'm gonna move my decimal point 1 time. So my decimal point should be right here. So I'm gonna move it 1 time. So my new decimal point is going to be right here. So this only happens when we're dividing base 10 numbers. That's either 10 or 100 or 1,000. So the number of 0 tells me how many times I move my decimal point to the right. All right, so I move to this direction right here. All right, so that's gonna be, all right, so after moving my decimal point right there, my answer is gonna be 9.5. So that's gonna be my discount. $9.5 and $9.5 the same thing as $9.50. So this right here is gonna be 50 cents. So that's what it means. So $9.50. So if you see 5 by 7, 9.5 is the same thing as 50, because 0 come after the 5 there. Nothing is wrong with that. So $9.50. So my answer is going to be A. And then I move on to question 12. So a town has a population of 8,000 people. All right. So a town has a population of 8,000 people. So 40% of the population are children. How many children live in the community? So if you realize, you see the word again, of. So that means that I'm going to have to multiply. What am I going to multiply? The 40% by the population. So let's write it below. So that's going to be 8,000 multiplied by 40%. And 40% is just 40 over 100. All right. So first thing first, if I see a whole number multiplying a fraction, I put the whole number over 1 so we can have two fractions. And afterwards, I know that once I have two fractions, I can multiply numerator times numerator and denominator times denominator. So that's going to be equal to, so 40 times 8, 8,000. So 4 times 8, basically, that should be giving you, so that's going to be 32. And you will put your zeros beside that. So that's going to be, let's write it down there. So that's going to be 32. And you put down the same amount of zeros right here. So that's going to be 4 zeros. So 0, 0, 0, 0, all over 1 times 100. That's going to be 100. Afterwards, you just cancel your shared zeros. So that's going to be, take 1 0 from the bottom, 1 0 from the top, 1 0 from the bottom, and 1 0 from the top. So after you have done that, we have our remaining numbers being equal to. So all of this now would be equal to my final answer. That's gonna be 3,200. So that's gonna be the population of children living in the town. So that's 3,200. All right. So now I'm gonna move on to question 13. So a student has 1,000, a school, sorry, has 1,200 students. 35% of the students are girls. How many girls are in the school? So this right here is 35% off. So we're just gonna multiply the students, number of students by the percentage in order to find how many are girls. So that's gonna be 35% of the total. So that's gonna be 1,200. That's gonna be 1,200 multiplied by 35% is gonna be 35 over 100. All right, so 35% is gonna be 35 over 100. So we multiply that by 1,200, and we know that if we have a whole number multiplying a fraction, we put that whole number over 1, and then we multiply the two fractions. So same thing we have been doing. So numerator times denominator. So numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. All right, so that's going to be equal to, so 35 times 12. So we can multiply 25 by 35 times 12 and add the two zeros. So 35 times 12, that's going to be equal to, 420. So 420. And we add our two zeros afterwards. So that's going to be 42,000 over 1 times 100. You're going to have your 100 put down. All right. So afterwards, you just eliminate your zeros for the bottom and top. So 1 0 at the bottom, 1 0 at the top, 1 0 at the bottom, 1 0 from the top. So what we have remaining is going to be equal to, that's just going to be equal to 420. So 420. So that's going to be the amount, number of girls at the school. So that's 420. All right. So moving along. So a city now, a city has a population of 50,000. 12% of the population are senior citizens. How many senior citizens are there? So it's gonna find 12% of 50,000. So that's gonna be same thing that we have been doing before. So let's just quickly do it. So that's gonna be 50,000. And we're gonna multiply that by 12%. That's gonna be 12 over 100. all right, all over. You know, if we have our whole number, we just put that whole number over 1. All right, so multiply now, numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. So that's going to be equal to, so we have 12 times 50,000. We know that if you multiply 12 times 5, that's going to be 60. So our fraction is going to be equal to, our fraction is going to be equal to, so that's 12 times 5 is going to be 60. And you add your zeros. So that's going to be 600,000. And 1 times 100 is 100. So now we just eliminate our zeros. So that's going to be 1 from the bottom, 1 from the top, 1 from the bottom, 1 from the top. So what we have remaining is going to be 6,000. So that's going to be the senior citizens that are there. All right, so 6,000. Moving on to question 15. So a television costs $600 before VAT. VAT is 10%. What is the total cost including the VAT? All right, so you want to know the cost for the television after VAT. Now, VAT is value added tax. So you would pay more for the item. All right, let's see how many more or how much more you pay after adding that value added tax. All right, so 10% of 600, that's gonna be 10 times 600 times 10%. So that's gonna be 600. Let's write that down. So that's gonna be 600 times 10%. That's 10 over 100. All right, so we do the same thing. We're gonna change that whole number into a fraction. So I'm gonna put it over 1, and then I'm gonna multiply across. So that's numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. So that's gonna be equal to, so that's gonna be 600 times 10, that's gonna be 6,000 over 1 times 100, that's gonna be 100. And we cancel our zeros at the bottom and the top. So that's gonna be 1 from the bottom and 1 from the top, another from the bottom, another from the top. So what we have remaining is going to be equal to 60. So we have 60 remaining, so 60 remaining. Therefore, our answer is gonna be, this is my VAT, this is my VAT. So I'm gonna add it to my total. So I'm gonna add my VAT because it says what's the cost including the VAT. So I'm gonna add it. So 600 plus 60 is gonna be equal to 660. All right. So going down, a restaurant bill is 80 before VAT. The VAT is 12.5%. What is the value added amount? So we're not asked to find the total amount to be paid. We're asked to find what is the VAT. All right, so we're gonna find what is 12% of 80. So let's multiply that. So that's gonna be 80 times, that's gonna be 12.5 over 100. All right, so this is 12.5%. That's 12.5 over 100. So we have 80 right here. So the same thing applies. We're just gonna, if we're multiplying a fraction by a whole number, change the whole number by writing it as a fraction by putting it over 1. All right, so now we can multiply our 80 times, so 80 times 12.5, and we're gonna have 1 times 100. So that's going to be equal to, all right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to multiply the 80. So that's going to be 80 times 12.5. That's going to be 1,000. So that's going to equal to 1,000 divided by 1 times 100. That's going to be 100. So next that we have to do is just to eliminate our zeros from the bottom and top. So that's going to be 1 from the bottom, 1 from the top, 1 from the bottom, and another from the top. So we have 10 remaining. So that's going to be our answer right there. So our VAT amount is going to be just $10. That's going to be our VAT amount. Value added tax, that's going to be $10. All right, so now we're at 17. All right, so 17 says that the agent sells goods worth $4,000. He earns 5% commission. How much commission does he earn? So commission is bonus pay that comes from a percentage of whatever sale was made. All right, so since he sold goods at $4,000 or worth $4,000, he's gonna earn 5% off $4,000. And if you realize, I said the word off, 5% off. That means that I'm gonna have to multiply. All right, so that's gonna be 4,000 times 5% is gonna be 5 over 100. All right, so as I said before, if I multiply a whole number by a fraction, I'm gonna have to put the whole number over 1 so that I can multiply the numerators together. So numerator times numerator and denominator times denominator. So I'm gonna end up having, so 5 times 4 is gonna be 20. So you write the 20 and you put back your 0, so that's gonna be 20. So 5 times 4 is 20 and you write back your 0, so that's gonna be 20,000 all over 1 times 100, that's gonna be 100. And then you eliminate your zeros from the bottom and top, eliminate 0 from the bottom and top. So that means that we have only number 200 remaining. So that means that's gonna be your commission. So that's gonna be your commission. So that's just $200. All right, so that's gonna be C. All right, moving down. I'm at question 2018. So a salesman earn a salary of 1,200 plus 8% commissions on sales. She sells $2,000 worth of goods. So we're gonna have to find what the commission is, and the commission is gonna be 8% off the $2,000 that she sent. So our total earnings is gonna be her pay. So her pay is this amount right here plus the commissions. So remember that commission is what? Commission is what? Bonus pay that comes from the percentage of whatever sale was made. All right, so going back down here, sorry, going back down here, we're gonna have to find our commissions and then we're gonna add it to the salary. So 8% of 2,000. So I'm gonna write my 2,000 and then I'm gonna multiply it by 8. So 2,000 times 8%, that's gonna be 8 over 100. So I'm gonna put that 2,000. I'm gonna write it as a fraction. So that's gonna be 2,000 over 1. And then I multiply now, numerator times numerator, since I have two fractions. So numerator times numerator and denominator times denominator. So that's gonna be equal to, and I just multiply. So 8 times 2, that's gonna be 16. and I add my zeros, all over 1 times 100, that's going to be equal to 100. And then I just eliminate my zeros. So take 1 0 right here from the bottom, 1 from the top, 1 0 from the bottom, and another from the top. So we're just left with what? 160. So your commission is going to be equal to 160. So we have to add this now too. So let me just separate this right here. So we're gonna add the 162, the 200. So 1,200. That's our pay. That's our salary. And we're just gonna add our commissions. We're gonna add our commissions to that. So that's gonna be 160. So we're gonna add it to. So that's gonna be 0 plus 0. That's 0. 6 plus 0. That's 6. 1 plus 2. That's 3. And then we have our 1. So that's 1,360. So B is gonna be your answer right there. All right, question 19. So a worker earns 2,500 per month. The income tax is 12%. How much tax does the worker pay? All right, so we're asked to find what is the tax. So all right, so income tax reduces. So let's write this properly. So income tax reduces the amount of pay you receive. All right, so we need to find what is our income tax right there. So it's just gonna be 12% of the pay. So we're just gonna find the percentage right there. So just gonna multiply. All right, so that's gonna be 2,500 times 12%. That's gonna be 12 over 100. All right, so first thing we do, as I said before, we put the number over 1 to change it into a fraction, and numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. That's going to be equal to, so 12 times 25. So yeah, we can do that. So 12 times 25 is going to be equal to 300. So we have 300. And we put those 2 zeros beside it as well. So that's going to be 30,000 over 1 times 100. That's going to be 100. And then afterwards, we just cancel. So we take 1 0 from the bottom, 1 0 from the top, 1 0 from the bottom, 1 0 from the top. So we're just left with 300. So your tax, the person's tax, the income tax will be equal to 300. So that's 300. So that's gonna be C. All right, so moving on to question 20. So a teacher earns 3,200 monthly. What is 15%? It asks us to find the total tax. So what is the total tax? All right, so we're gonna be doing the same thing. So that's gonna be 3,200 multiplied by 15%. So 15% is gonna be 15 over 100. So we then first change this into a fraction by having it over 1, and then we multiply. Numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. So after multiplying 32 times 15, that's going to be equal to, so 32 times 15, that's going to be equal to 480. And you add your 2 zeros. So it's going to be 48,000 all over. 1 times 100, that's gonna be 100. And then you eliminate your zeros. So that's gonna be 1 0 from the bottom, 1 0 from the top, 1 0 from the bottom, and another from the top. So then we are left with $480 for tax. So that's gonna be $480. That's gonna be the amount for tax. That should be, that's gonna be the amount for tax. All right, so a bag of rice. So a bag of rice cost $40 last year. The price increased by 5%. What is the new price? You need to find what is 5% of $40 so that you can know what the new price is. So you're gonna do the same thing. So 40 times 5 over 100, so we can know what is 5%. We're doing this so we can know what is 5% of 40. All right, so we're gonna multiply the 40 by 5 over 100. So after we know what is 5% of 40, we can just add that to the 40 to know what's gonna be our new price after it increased. All right, so all right, so that's gonna be 40 times 5 and 1 times 100. So that's gonna be equal to 5 times 4. So 5 times 4, that's gonna be 20. So that's gonna be 20. And we add our 0 right there. Over 1 times 100, that's gonna be equal to 100. All right. And then we eliminate our zeros. So take away 1 0 from the bottom, eliminate 1 from the top, cancel 1 0 from the bottom and 1 from the top. So we're just left with 2. So therefore, 5% of $40 is gonna be $2. All right, so if we add 2 plus 40, the new price after it increases is going to be equal to B, which is 42. All right, so moving down. All right, good. So we're asked to solve what is 52.9 divided by 10 times 100. So the order of operation says that you're supposed to work brackets first, then exponents, then third, multiply or divide. And addition and subtraction will come last. So that's your order of operations. So looking at this right here, we have division and multiplication. So because division and multiplication is on the same level, the one that's left come first. So that's how we read it. Once they're on the same level, so you don't say because you use the PEMDAS, it said M come before D. So that means you have to multiply before you divide. No, they're on the same level. That means that whatever sign you see first from the left hand side, we will do it first. So what come? All right, so we divide first. So dividing 10 by 52.9, that's just gonna be equal to. So this right here, 52.9 divided by 10, we're just gonna move our decimal point. So that's gonna be equal to 50. Sorry, that's gonna be equal to 5.29. Afterwards, you multiply that by 100. So that's gonna be equal to. You just move your sign back 2 times. So we move the decimal point back 2 times. So that's gonna be 1, 2, because we're multiplying by 100, and 100 has 2 zeros. So that's 2 zeros. So when we're dividing, the number of 0 tells me how many times I'm supposed to move that decimal point to the left. So that's 1 time. So that's how I have my 5.29. And when I multiply, I'm going to move to my right based on the number of zeros. So I'll move 2 times to my right. So my answer is going to be equal to 529. So that's going to be my answer right there. So question 22. There's no answer for that question right there. So, all right, so let's look at this one right here. Solve 23 plus 6 times 3, sorry. So your order of operations, let's carry it down right there. So that's gonna be brackets, then exponents, and then multiplication and division. Addition and subtraction come last based on the order of operations. So that means that for this right here, for this question right here, I'm going to have to multiply before I add. So that's going to be 6 times 3. That should be equal to 18. So 18 plus 23. So if I add 18 plus 23, you will get our final answer. All right, so let's quickly do that for the persons who cannot add. So let's do that quickly. So that's going to be 23. That's going to be 23 plus 18. So that's going to be 18 plus 3. That's going to be 11. Carry that 1 to be added. So that's going to be 4. So that's going to be 41. So it looked like, what happened? It looked like the answers for the question got mixed up because the answer for this one is right here. So the answer for this one is right here. So this is 41, and the answer for the one above right there, which is 509 and 29 is right here. So it looks as if the options got mixed up. Okay. Don't worry, don't worry. We'll ensure that. As long as you see the correct procedure. All right. So let's look at this one right here. Which of the following has the lowest value? So what we want to do, we want to ensure that we're looking for the one with the lowest value. All right. So if that's the case, let's first convert all of these into fractions. So 1% is going to be 1 over 100. That's 1%. 1 over 100 is 1%. All right. And for this one right here, 0.1 as a fraction, that's going to be equal to 1 over 10. All right. So that's 1 over 10. So the lowest value for the fraction right here is going to be 1. Because the lower the number is, the lower the numerator is compared to the denominator, the lower the value is going to be. So this right here, the 1% is going to be the lowest value right there. Moving on to question 25. Which of these fractions have the same value? So if we want to know which fractions have the same value, we have to simplify. So we simplify the fractions to see which have the same value. So we're going to simplify right here. So let's look at this one right here. What number can divide the bottom and the top without leaving a remainder? So that's going to be me dividing both the bottom and the top by 3. So if I divide the top by 3 and the bottom by 3, then that should be equal to, so 3 divided by 3, that's going to be 1 over 3 divided by 6, that's going to be 2. So I have a half, but I also have a half right there. So the answer is going to be a half and 3 over 6. What is 1 over 20 as a decimal? So if we want to convert a fraction into a decimal number, we just divide. What we're going to divide, we're going to divide the fraction, so that's going to be 20 divided by 1. All right, so 20 divided by 1, we can't. So you put a 0 right there. Remember your steps for division. So after you divide, you multiply. So 0 times 20, that's going to be 0. And after you multiply, you subtract. So 1 minus 0, that's going to be 1. And then after we subtract, we bring down. What is there to bring down? Nothing. So you put a decimal point right here. And if we put a decimal point right here, you put a decimal point where your answer is. So we add that 0 after the decimal point, so we can bring it down. So we're gonna have 10. All right, so after you bring down, you're gonna repeat the steps. So you're gonna go all the way back to divide. So 20 divided by 10, you can't. I'm gonna repeat the steps. So 0 times 20. So that's gonna be equal to 0. After you multiply, you subtract. So you'll have 10 remaining. After you subtract, you bring down. So you put a 0 right here. and you're gonna bring it down. So that's gonna change it to 100. We don't have to put in a decimal point because you should only have one decimal point in your answer. That's the only thing that makes sense. So after we bring down that zero, we have 100. We do the same procedure again. So how many times 20 can go into 100? That's gonna be 5. So because 5 times 20, so after we divide, we multiply, so 5 times 20. That's gonna be 100. And after we subtract that, we're left with 0 as our answer. So our answer is gonna be equal. What is 1 over 20 as a decimal? It's going to be 0.05. Okay. So I'll be doing the same thing right here. What is 90? So what is 90 over 100 as a fraction? So we're gonna be doing the same thing. So we just divide. So what we're gonna divide 100 by 90. So how many times 100 how many times 100 can go into 90? That's gonna be 0. And then you multiply afterwards. So 0 times 100, that's gonna be 0. After you multiply, you subtract. So you'll have your 90 coming back down. After you subtract, you bring down. What's there to bring down? Nothing. So you put a decimal point right here and a decimal point above where your answer is. So you put down that 0 and you carry down that 0. So that's gonna be 900. So many times 100 can go into 900? That's gonna be 9. And after you divide, you multiply again. So 9 times 100. 9 times 100 is going to be 900. And after you subtract, you should get 0 for your answer. So that right there, answer is going to be 0.9. So that's going to be your answer. Going down, what is 3 over 5 as a decimal? So we're going to be doing that. So 3 over 5 is a decimal, and we just divide again. That's going to be 5 divided by 3. How many times 5 can go into 3? We can't. So put a 0 right there. And then you multiply comes second. So 0 times 5, that's going to be 0. After multiply, you subtract. So you're going to subtract. So 3 minus 0, you're going to be left with 3. And after we subtract, we bring down. There's nothing to bring down, so you put a decimal point. You add the 0, but remember to put a decimal point where your answer is. So you're going to bring down that 0 because after you subtract, you have to bring down. So that's going to be 30. After you bring down, you repeat the steps. So that's going to be, you're going to go back to divide. So how many times 5 can go into 30? That's going to be 6 times. So 6 times 5, that's going to be 30. Afterwards, you subtract, and you'll have no remainder. So that's going to be your answer right here. That's 0.6. What is 72% expressed as a decimal fraction? So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to convert this percentage into a fraction, into a decimal fraction. So the first thing that we're going to do, is to write what is 72 as a fraction, 72% as a fraction. It's going to be 72 over 100. So that's 72 as a fraction. That's 72 over 100. So now that we have it as a fraction, we have two options. We can simplify it as is, or we can just divide. Because at the time, I'm just going to divide. I'm not going to simplify, I'm just going to divide. So just as we did it before, above, same thing. So we're just going to divide. So that's going to be, let me change the color. So that's going to be 100 divided by 72. Okay, how many times 100 can go into 72? That's going to be 0 times. And then after you divide, you multiply. So 0 times 100, that's going to be equal to 0. After that, you subtract. So 72 minus 0, that's going to be 72. Afterwards, you bring down. So after subtract, you bring down. What is there to bring down? Nothing. So you put a decimal point. Put a decimal point above as well. And you add your 0 to bring down. So you're going to bring down this 0 right there. So it's going to change it to 720. 720. So how many times 100 can go into 720? That's going to be 7 times. And then you multiply again. So that's going to be 7 times 100. That's 700. After you multiply, you subtract. So then you're going to be left with 20. After you subtract, you bring down. So you're going to add that 0 right there. And you're going to bring it down. Changing it to 200. And after you bring down, you repeat the steps. So how many times 100 can go into 200? That's going to be 2 times. So 2 times 100, that's going to be 200. And after subtracting, that will be equal to 0. So your answer right there is going to be all right. So the options right there, these options are incorrect. So these options are incorrect. So the option should be 0.72. So that's the correct answer right there. So this question needs to be looked at. All right. So looking at question 30. A club has 4,792 members. Round this number to the nearest hundred. So the digit that is in the hundreds place right there. Digit that is in the hundreds place right there is gonna be this number right here. So this number is in the nearest hundred. So this number is in the hundreds place. It's 7. So when we're rounding numbers, you have to look at the number immediately beside it. So that's gonna be 9. All right. So because 9 is beside the 7 right there, you know the rule. If it is equal to 5 or greater, we round up. So let me write it right there. If the number beside is, if it is greater than 5 or equal to 5, we round up. So in this case right here, because the 9 is greater than 5, so 9 right there is greater than or equal to 5. So that means that we have to round up. So our answer is going to be equal to 4,800. So that's the number round to the nearest hundreds. Going down. A shop sells good at the value to the value of 2,783.59. Round this number or round this amount to the nearest whole number. So the whole number right there is going to be 3. So the whole number is a number in the ones place. So which digit is in the ones place? That's the nearest whole number. So the digit in the ones place is gonna be your 3. So the digit beside it now, that digit beside the 3 is gonna be 5. So that digit is 5. And if it is 5 or greater, we round up. So this your answer now is gonna be equal to 2,784 because you have to round up. So that's gonna be C. All right, let's look at question 32. So 16.349 written to the second decimal place is, so the second decimal place is the second digit that comes before your decimal point. So 1, 2, 3. So your second decimal place would be where your 4 is. So that 4 right here will be your second decimal place. So that's 1, 2, 3. That's how you count it. So the digit beside the 4 right there is going to be your 9. So 9 is the digit that comes beside the second digit in the second decimal place. So if we round that digit to the second decimal place, we're gonna have, because the 9 is greater than 5, we're gonna round up. So that's gonna be 16.35. So decimal place means that you have two digits that comes before your decimal point. All right, so 16.35, we round up because that 9 is greater than 5. All right, moving on to question 33 right here. So 32.9, sorry, 0.497 or written to the first decimal place is, so the first decimal place, that's gonna be the 4. So 4 is the first decimal number, or sorry, is the first digit that comes before, immediately before decimal point. So that's gonna be the digit in the first decimal place. So what we're gonna do, look at the digit that comes beside it. The digit beside it is 9. So because 9 is greater than 5, we're gonna round up. So that answer is gonna be 32.5 because 9 is beside the 4. So we have to round that 4 up. All right. So so yeah, so that's gonna be and notice for the one decimal place right there, realize there's only one digit before decimal point. So yeah, that's you you identify that. All right, so on a map, 10 centimeters represents 50 kilometers. So what is the distance represented by 5 centimeters? All right, so instead of 10 centimeters, so if 10 centimeters represented 50 kilometers, what's going to happen if you have 5 centimeters? So I would first compare the 5 centimeters to 10 centimeters. So I know that if I divide 10 centimeters, if I divide 10 centimeters by 2, I would get 5 centimeters. So that means that I would do the same thing for the 50 kilometers right there. So if I divide that by 2, 50 divided by 2 is going to be equal to 25. So that's going to be 25 kilometers. 25 kilometers. So my answer is going to be equal to be 25 kilometers. Going down to question 35. So a man wants to draw a wall on a scale plan. The actual length of a wall is 5 meters. The scale on the plan is 1 to 50. What is the length of the wall on the plan? All right. So if the length on the wall is actually 5 meters, right? If your unit right here is in centimeters, because obviously based on our answer right here, the unit the length on the plan is in centimeters. So that means that this one right here is going to be 1 centimeters. So 1 centimeters to 50 centimeters. So what you'll have to do is that you'll have to look on, if you have 1 centimeters to 50 representing that is equal to 50 centimeters, how much is gonna give you 5 meters? All right, so from centimeters now, from centimeters to meters would be right here. So a meter would be right here. So right at the base, it's gonna be meter will come right here, and your centimeter would be about right here. All right, so this is my prefix table. So my prefix table tells me or helps me determine how many units that how would I have to move from one unit to the next. So I go from largest to smallest right here. Smallest is kilo, and we increase in multiples of 10. So every time when we increase from one unit to the next, we increase in multiples of 10, right? So that means that we're multiplying 10 by 10 every time when we increase from one unit to the next. So how does that look like? What does that look like? It looks like this. So centimeters to meters, that's gonna be one jump. So one unit to the next, that's 10. And a next unit from centi to base, that's another 10. So 10 times 10, that's gonna be 100. So 10, 100. So we just keep increasing by 10. So from centi to meter, we move 2 times on our prefix table. So that's 10, 100. So therefore, 100 centimeters is equal to 1 meter. So that means if I have 5 meters, that's gonna be 500 centimeters. Right? So if I know that I need 500 centimeters to be equal to 5 meters, then I would have to, since this ratio, since this map ratio right here is telling me that 1 centimeters represent 50 centimeters, then in order to move from 50 to 500, I would have to multiply both sides by 10. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 10. So 10 times 50 would give me the 500, and 10 times the 1 would give me 10. So that means that 10 centimeters will give me 500 centimeters. So that's what that's the answer right there. All right, let's quickly do this one. So a cricketer plays 5 one-day matches. So he plays 5 one-day matches. He scored these runs. So 80, 30, 40, 15, and 30. What was his average score per match? So his average score, all we have to do is just add. So we're just gonna add all the scores together. That's gonna be 80 plus 30 plus 40 plus 15 plus 30. All right, so if we add all those scores together, 195 divided by, how many numbers is right here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're gonna divide it by the 5 numbers that we see. So that's gonna be 195 divided by 5, that's gonna be equal to 39. So 39 is gonna be your average right there. All right, so 37. So a woman worked for these hours last week. I'm not seeing the table right there, so I'm just gonna move on. But if it asks us to find the average, then we'll add all and then divide by the number of days. So a cafe records the number of drinks they sell each hour. So these are the number of drinks they sold in each hour yesterday. So that's 22 plus 40 plus 39 plus 3 plus 36 plus 28, and we're asked to find the range. So you're gonna take the largest number. So range means that you're gonna take the largest number and you subtract it from the smallest number. So that's gonna be 40. That's the largest number. Subtract it from the smallest number. That's gonna be 22. So that's gonna be, take 1 from there. That's gonna, and you bring over that. If you take 1 from 4, you'll be left with 3. Carry over that 1, that's gonna be 10. So 2 minus 10, that's gonna be 8. And 2 from 3, that's gonna be 1. So 18 is gonna be your answer right there. All right.
So a sum of $20,000 is invested at the rate of 5% per annum. Simple interest for 3 years. How much interest is earned? So we have to find simple interest. So the formula for finding simple interest is gonna be principal. So, all right. So as principal times rate times time divided by 100. So this is the formula for finding your simple interest. All right, so simple interest equal to principal times rate times time all over 100. So the rate is always the percentage. The principal is the money that you invested, and the time is 3 years right here. So how much money is invested? Let's just plug in all what we know right there. So we're just gonna use substitute or plug in all our values. So that's gonna be, so P is gonna be 20,000. So that's gonna be 20,000. The 20,000 times rate is 5%, so that's gonna be 5 times the time right here is 3 years, so multiply by 3 all over 100. All right, so let's multiply all the numbers at the top right there. So that should give you, so if you multiply all the numbers at the top, let's highlight the numbers at the top first. So you would, sorry, so you would multiply all the numbers at the top right here. So we're at the top first. So 20,000 times 5, 5 times 2, that's gonna be 10, and 10 times 3, that's gonna be 30. So you're gonna end up with 30, and then we'll add our zeros there. So that's we're gonna add our 4 zeros afterwards. So what happened? I just multiplied 5 times the 3 times the 2. So if I multiply these 3 digits right there, I will get 30. I'll get the 30, and I'll just add my 4 zeros afterwards. So that's gonna be, so the 4 zeros with 30 all over 100. All right. So now that we have done that, we just eliminate the zero. So cancel 1 0 from the bottom, 1 0 from the top, 1 0 from the bottom, 1 0 from the top. So that means you're left with just what? 300. So your simple interest is going to be, oh, sorry. So 1 0 from the bottom, 1 0 from the top. All right. So yeah, your simple interest is gonna be 3,000. So your simple interest is gonna be equal to 3,000. Right? So that's gonna be C right there. So moving on. A sum of $10,000 is invested at 10% per annum. Compound interest for 2 years is at the end of, we're going to use this formula. So we're gonna find our total amount. And our total amount is normally written as A. So that's A. And our principal is normally written as P, so that's A minus P. So this is how we normally find our compound interest. So this is gonna be the formula to find A. So to find A, we use this formula right here. A is equal to principal times 1 plus R over 100 raised to T. All right, so that's gonna be principal times in bracket 1 plus rate over 100 raised to the power of T. So that's gonna look like, this is gonna look just like this now. It's gonna look like A is equal to, our principal there is just $10,000. So this is gonna be our principal. So 10,000 multiplied by 1 plus 10% would be 10 over 100. So that's 10 over 100 raised to the time right there is 2 years. So that's going to be raised to the power of 2. All right. So what we normally do, We work what is inside our bracket first, so we should add our whole number 1 with this fraction 10 over 100. So that should give me this right here, which would be A is equal to 10,000 multiplied by, so that's gonna be 1 plus 10 divided by 100. That's gonna equal to 0.10, and we're gonna raise this to the second power. And remember, we still have to work what is in our bracket first. So we have 1 plus 0.10. So we're gonna add these two numbers together. So we're gonna do it below. So that's gonna be A is equal to 10,000 multiplied by 1 plus 0.10. That's gonna equal to 1.1. If you write 1.1, it's the same thing as 1.10. So I don't have to write it to be 1.10. I don't have to write that. I could just write 1.1 raised to the second power. All right, so that means that I would have to square this. So for those who don't know, if I'm squaring this number right here, it means that I would have to multiply the number by itself. So it will look just like this. So it would look like A is equal to 10,000 times, in bracket, I'm gonna have 1.1 times, because I'm squaring it, it's gonna still be multiplied by the number itself. So multiply by 1.1. So therefore, I would have to do this first, meaning I would have to square it. So if I multiply 1.1 squared, so 1.1 squared, that's gonna be equal to 1 point, that's gonna be 10,000 so that's gonna be 10,000 times 1.21. So after multiplying 1.1 times 1.1, I get 1.21. It doesn't matter if you would have multiplied the 0.10, you still would have gotten the same thing. So you still would have gotten the same thing. So if you square that instead, me removing the 0 right there, it did not change anything. It wouldn't change anything. It wouldn't change anything. So now that we have it like this, we're just gonna multiply what we have right here. So we're just gonna multiply everything right here. So this is what we're gonna be doing next. The 10,000, we're gonna multiply it by the 1.21. So if I multiply the 10,000 times 1.21, that's gonna be equal to A now. It's gonna be equal to, it's gonna be equal to 12. So that's 12,100. All right. The total amount after the 2 years is going to be 12,100. All right. So moving down. This diagram shows a dial and a weighing scale. So it asks us to find what is the weight shown on the dial. So the first thing that you have to do is to count the lines. Count the lines. So there's you move from 0 to this dial right here, you have to move one time. So we count it just so it's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So to get from to 0, to move from 0 to 100, we moved what? There what? We moved 5 times. So we moved that means if you want to know how many each line would represent on your dial, you would have to divide. So you divide, so we're gonna take from 0 to 100, our known value. Our last digit right there is 100. So we're just gonna divide that by the 5 times that we move and see what each line would be. So that's gonna be 100 divided by 5, and that should be equal to 20. So that means each line right there represents 20. So each mark or each line. So each line represents 20. So we can count it ourselves. So it's going to be from 0 to the next line, 20. Another 20 is going to be 40. Another 20 is going to be 60. Another 20 is going to be 80. And then we have 100. So what is the weight shown on that? So we are on 600. I'm going above 600. So we're on 600 to this line right here. We just add 23. So that's going to be 620. And another 20 right there is going to be 640. So that's going to be 640. Because after the 600, we're just going to add, we're just going to add 20 plus another 20. And remember, 20 represents each line. So your answer is going to be 640. Let's look at this bar graph. So this bar chart shows the number of tourists who visited different holiday destinations in 2018. All right, so how many more tourists visited the UK than the Caribbean? All right, so where's the UK? Right here. And where's the Caribbean? Right here. All right, so how many more visited the UK than Caribbean? So first thing you're gonna see, you're gonna do the same thing as before. So we have some lines right there. I want to know what each line represents. All right, so in order to know what each line represents, we're gonna do this right here. We're from 0 to 20. We moved. So that's gonna be 1. So we move one time from 0 to this line right here. So that's 1, 2. Let me increase it so you can see what I'm talking about. So to get from 0 to this line right here, we move one time, then 2 times, then 3 times, then 4 times, and then 5 times. All right. So I move 5 times. So to get from 0 to 20, we move, we move 5 times. So because we move 5 times, we're going to divide the 5 by the last digit that we get to. So we get to, so therefore, because we move from 0 to 20, we're going to divide, we're going to divide 5 by the 20 in order to know what each line represents on our graph. So 20 divided by 5 is going to be equal to 4. So that means that 4 right there represents each line. So it represents each line. All right. So let's count it again. So let's go back and count it. So if each line represents 4, that means we're gonna go from 0 to this line right here. That's gonna be 4, and another 4 that's gonna be 8. Another 4 is going to be uh it's gonna be 16. Sorry, so we have 4. So if we add another 4, that's gonna be 8. If we add another 4, that's gonna be 12. If we add another 4, that's gonna be 16, and if we add another 4, that's gonna be 20. All right, so each line we're adding 4. Each line we're adding 4. So every time when we go up from one line to the next, we're adding 4. So I'm gonna go again. So if I add if I move from this 4 right here to this line, so 4 plus 4, that's gonna be 8, plus another 4, that's gonna be 12, plus another 4, that's gonna be 16, plus another 4, that's gonna be 20. All right, so each line represents each line represents 4. It's we're going up by 4. All right, so now that we have that out of the way, we can easily see how much persons visited the Caribbean. So from 20, there are 2 lines above 20. So that's gonna be 20 plus 4, that's gonna be 24, plus another 4, that's gonna be 28. So Caribbean, persons who visited the Caribbean, that's gonna be 28. All right. Persons who visited the UK now. So we're at, so it's almost at 40. So it's 1 less than 40. So because it's 1 line less than 40, that would be the for UK, that would be 40 minus 4, because it's 1 line less. So 40 minus 4. And if we take away 4 from 40, we'll be left with 36. So that means that 36 persons visited the UK. So 36 persons visited the UK, because it's almost at 40, but it's 1 line less. Because it is 1 line less on each line represents 4. So you just subtract 4 from the 40 to get 1 line less. So that would be 36. All right. So if you ask us how many more visited the UK than the Caribbean, then you'd have to just subtract. So we're going to subtract now in order to find the answer. So that's going to be 36 minus 28. So if we subtract that, we would get, so how many, so 8 minus 8 from 6, we cancel. You're gonna take 1 from 3 and carry it to the 6. That's gonna change it to 16. And after we take 1 from 3, we're left with 2. All right, so after we take 1 from 3, we're gonna be left with 2. All right, so 8 minus 16, so 2 8 is 16. So that means if you subtract 8 from 16, we'll be left with 8. And 2 minus 2, that's 0. So our answer is just 8. So our answer down here is going to be 8 million, because our graph says that these numbers over the side right here are numbers in millions. So this 20 right here will be 20 million. All numbers you see right there are in millions. So if 28 persons, if 28 persons, tourists visited the Caribbean and 36 visited the Caribbean, after we subtract that, the difference is just 8. So 8 more persons visited the UK than the Caribbean. So always remember, look at the distance from 0 to your next digit right there, and count how many lines would I have to take in order to get to 20. All right. So move 5 times, and that's the reason why we divide it by 20. All right. Don't start counting with the first line immediately at 0. You go up after you take 1 step. So the next line, that's where you would start from. That's where you start counting until you reach 20. All right. So moving on. So 43. The pictogram shows the value of sales over 2-hour periods during a day. So
each dollar sign that you see right there represents $10. So it asks us for what is the difference in sales between 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock and 14. So this 14 is going to be 2 p.m. 2 p.m. to, but we can still just write 14 hours to 16 hours. All right, so let's look at the what's gonna be the period, or what's gonna be the difference in the sales between those times. All right, so from 10 to 12, let's count it. So each is gonna represent 10, so that's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there are 11 symbols right here and it represents 10. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So therefore, because it's 11 symbols right there, we're going to have to multiply. So 11 multiplied by 10, that's going to be equal to, in dollars, that's going to be $110. So that's the amount of sales that were made during that time. That's the value of sales that were made during that time. So the sales now for this time right here is going to be right here. So that's gonna be 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. All right, so because there are 13 symbols right there, we're going to multiply that 13 by 10, and that will give me $130. So the reason why I multiply by 10 is because remember that each dollar sign represents what? Each dollar sign represents $10. So now that we have that right there, we're going to, it asks us what is the difference of sales between these times. So the difference of sale is going to be, you're just going to subtract to find the difference. So you're going to subtract the bigger number from the smaller number. So you're going to have 130 minus 110. So after you subtract, that's going to be equal to 20. All right, so $20. So C is gonna be $20. Just let me count this again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah. So you're gonna end up, the difference between the sales between those two periods is gonna be $20. So question 44. Our report says Jamaica welcomed 3.1 million visitors in 2018. What is 3.1 million as in figures? So that's gonna be $1,000,000 has to be a digit that comes after 6 zeros. So million is a 7-digit, seven-figure amount. So that means that this right here, you have to ensure that 6 zeros. So you normally have 6 figures coming afterwards. So $1,000,000 is a number that has 7 figures when you count it. So this is 6. And we have another figure right here. So it's a 7-figure number. All right. So let's see which number has 7 figures. So that's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this right here is a 7-figure amount. So that's gonna be 3 million. And the one that comes afterwards will be this one right here. So $3.1 million. So that's $3 million, $3,100,000. So that's the same thing as $3.1 million. So remember that million has 7 figures. That's what you need to remember. All right. So move into question 25. What is 27,603 in figures? So 27,000. So 27,000 is gonna be right here. 1,000 looks like this right here. So this is what? 1, 2, 3, 4 figures. 4 figures are normally in 1,000, but it didn't ask us for just 1,000. It asked us for 27,000. So 27,000 would be right here. So that would be, so for this amount right here, we're not looking for 4 figures. We're looking for 5 figures. So we're looking for 5 figures. So we're not looking for 4 figures, we're looking for 5 figures. So that's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's the reason why we chose B for our answer, because we're looking for 5 figures. All right, so in which of these numbers does 4 have a value of 4,000? All right, so 4,000 is going to be your third number. So the third number, or third digit that comes before your decimal point. So it's a third decimal number. So your third decimal number is a number in the thousands place. All right, so let's see which number has 4 as the third number. So let's start. So that's gonna be 1, 2, 3. So my 4 is in the third decimal, number, so it is in the thousands place. So my answer is going to be A. All right, 47. A cook has 4 pounds of flour. How many ounces of flour are there in 4 pounds? So if 16 ounces is for 1 pound, what's gonna happen if you have 4? How many ounces would we get? So all we have to do is just to multiply. So we just multiply 16 times 4. So 4 times 6, that's gonna be 24. 4 times 1, that's gonna be 4 plus 2. So 4, you multiply before you add. So that's gonna be 4 times 1 is 4 plus 2, that's gonna be 6. So that's 64 ounces. What is 38,206 minus 4,095? So you're doing a subtraction right there. So we want to ensure that all our digits are lined up properly. So 3, 8, 2, 0, 6, and we have 4,000, 0, 9, 5, and we're gonna subtract that. So we're gonna subtract
And if we subtract, we know that we have to subtract the small number from the bigger number. And the reason why I have the space like that is so it's easier to do your working out. All right, so 5 from 6, you're gonna be left with 1. So you're gonna be left with 1 right there. 9 from 0, you can't. So you're gonna borrow from this 2 right here. That would leave with 1. And you carry a 1 right here. So 9 from 10, no, you'll be left with 1. 0 from 1, you'll be left with 1 as well. 4 from 8, you'll be left with 4. And we just bring down our 3 because nothing is there. All right, so that's gonna be 34,111. So A is gonna be your answer right there. All right, now we're undivided. So question 49. What is 5.4 divided by 0.3? So when a number is dividing, when a number, all right, so I didn't write that properly. Let's write it properly. So when dividing a number, by a when dividing a number by a decimal number, we must change the decimal number into a whole number. So we must change it into a whole number. We do that by moving the decimal point of the number we are dividing, and that's called the divisor. So the divisor right here, the number we're dividing by, is 0.3. So we have to change it into a whole number. We have to change it into a whole number. So only by changing it into a whole number, that's when we are able to divide. So we do that by moving the decimal point. So it's going to look just like this. So 0.3 as a whole number, it's going to be 3. How did we get from 0.3 to 3? We have to move decimal point 1 time. So because we move it 1 time to get our whole number, and this is a whole number by the way, so that means that our divisor should always be a whole number. We should divide by a whole number. So if you have a decimal number, you convert that into a whole number. We should not divide by a decimal number. So because we move the point 1 time, we're going to do the same for the number we're dividing. We have to move the point 1 time for it as well. So this 5.4 we're dividing, we have to move decimal point 1 time as well. So we'll end up with this. So we're going to divide by 3. We're going to end up with 3 divided by 54. That's what happens when we divide by a decimal number. All right, so let's divide. So 3 into 5 goes 1 time. So 3 into 5 goes 1 time. After we divide and multiply, 1 times 3, that's going to be 3. After that, you subtract. So 3 from 5, that's going to be 2. After you subtract, you bring down. So you're going to bring down that 4 right there. So now you have 24. So 24 divided by 3, that should be equal to 3. Sorry, that should be equal to 8. So that means 3 going to 24 8 times. Because 8 times 3, that's going to be equal to 24. And after multiplying, you always subtract. And we stop when we get 0 after subtracting. So your answer after is going to be 18. All right, so now we're on question 50.
All right, so question 50 is, what is 5,109 multiplied by 68? So it's gonna write that down right there. So we're gonna multiply that. So we have 5,100. Let's change the color to something different. So 5,109 times 64. All right, so after multiplying, now we're just gonna multiply everything. So we're gonna start with the 4. So 4 times 9, so 9 times 4, that's gonna equal to 36. Let's write that down. So that's gonna be 6. And you carry the 3 to be added. Remember, you multiply before you add, so 4 times 0, 4 times 0 is 0 plus 3, that's gonna be 3. 4 times 1, that's gonna be 4. 4 times 5, that's gonna be 20. And then you're gonna multiply by 6 afterwards. So you put down a placeholder 0 first, and then you start multiplying by 6. So that's gonna be, then you start multiplying by 6. So that's gonna be 6 times 9. So that's gonna be 54. So 6 times 9 is 54. So you put down that 4 right there. And carry the 5 to be added. 6 times 0 is 0. Plus 5. That's gonna be 5. 6 times 1 is 6. And then 6 times 5, that's gonna be 30. Afterwards, you add. So you end up with 6. 4 plus 3, that's gonna be 7. 5 plus 4, that's gonna be 9. 6 plus 0, that's gonna be 6. 0 plus 2, that's gonna be 2. And you bring down that 3 right there. So we end up with 326,976. So that's gonna be your answer. So it's right here. All right, so that was a good paper.